As we look at our supplement lineup to support the cardiovascular system, let's look at this particular supplement, MindWise. Hi, I'm Dr. Peter Minke. This is Minke Wellness. And you think, well, the name is MindWise. Are you losing it? Because why do you have this for the cardiovascular system? So let me explain. Any nutrient can be considered to be good for, pretty much any body system, right? I mean, talking about oxygen and water, you need that for everything. But, there are certain herbals and nutrients that kind of favor one direction or another. Well, in this case, the lineup here is fabulous for the cardiovascular system. And I do happen to know from Gary Young directly that he considered calling this CardioWise, and this was to replace the old CardiaCare. We had a product called CardiaCare years back that got discontinued. I don't know why. But it had the rhododendron herb in it, which this one has. It had the acetylcarnitine, which this one has. And so this one is really amazing at really supporting. So let's just go through and look at these things. We've got pomegranate fruit extract. That's kind of the pomegranate syrup that is the base of this. This is a liquid supplement, and it's a nice flavor. You could say, well, it's just, at the very least, it's a flavor, but it is obviously more than that. Great antioxidant, great source of certain kinds of in blueberries, there's ellagic acids. There are these certain acids that are really quite good for the cardiovascular system. Antioxidants in general are good for the cardiovascular system, but of course they're good for anything, right? And they're good for the brain, which is why this is called MindWise. The rhododendron extract is an herb that's good for the heart. We have another like alpha-carnitine or acetylcarnitine, coenzyme Q10, right? CoQ10. You've heard of this. Well, this is definitely, CoQ10 is definitely supported in the, supportive of the cardiovascular system. And then we have a turmeric in here, which you could say, well, that's good for the immune system. Well, that's good for, yes, it's true in all of those cases. And also to help maintain healthy inflammation levels. Now, the thing about inflammation is a lot of people say, well, I want to take an anti-inflammatory. No, you don't. You don't want to take an anti-inflammatory. Let me explain the difference between something that supports healthy inflammation and an anti-inflammatory. The body needs inflammation. It has to have these inflammatory cascades in order to function. The immune system functions based on this. The digestive system functions based on this. Tissue repair functions based on the inflammatory cascade, the response. Now, if that inflammatory cascade, the things that trigger it and all the different parts along the way, if they're disordered, if they're out of balance, then yes, you can have runaway inflammation that's causing problems, in the body. But without that inflammation, without those cascades, your body is actually compromised. You would actually die without inflammation. So here's the difference between an anti-inflammatory, like a medication, and something that supports healthy inflammation, right? An anti-inflammatory is something that literally goes in and interrupts, right? It's something that blocks one of the processes from step 1 to step 2 or step 4 to step 5. It blocks or interrupts that process so that your body cannot proceed with the inflammation cascade. Well, if you have runaway inflammation, you're going to feel the benefit of that, because if you've got this extra inflammation that is causing problems, you're going to reduce the level of inflammation in the body. The problem is, at the level, areas in the body and functions of the body, like I said, the immune system and digestion, if those need the inflammation, then you're shutting down those systems, and that's not a good thing. So what's the difference between that anti-inflammatory and the something that supports healthy inflammation? Well, something that supports healthy inflammation, you look in fact, I could suggest, looking at the detail of literature and looking at the mechanisms of action, most of the things that are considered herbal, the herbal or nutritional nutraceuticals that are classified as anti-inflammatory are actually not. They're not anti-inflammatory. They do not interrupt the inflammation pathway. What they do is provide a unique way, or unique source of antioxidant. Either it's a fat-soluble antioxidant or an antioxidant in a certain way, or because of where those molecules get to, where they arrive in the system, they will protect a certain part of the cellular machinery, and that protection is what prevents the cascade of inflammation, right? So we're getting a direct, or actually an indirect support. There's even more indirect support for the inflammatory system, which is to say, if you've got runaway inflammation because of toxicity, a lot of these things will actually, a lot of these nutraceuticals that are classified as anti-inflammatory, and people use that word, but it's not accurate, because what they're really doing is protecting from cellular damage, from the toxicity that's built up, which is what is triggering the inflammation cascade. So just being clarified on that. And so we have in here turmeric, fabulous for supporting healthy inflammation. And then an interesting compound, lithium, a very small amount of this lithium orotate. And as a trace mineral, lithium is very good for the brain. So it's one of the reasons it's in the MindWise. Now we go into the other ones, the essential oils in here, which are fabulous. So this is an amazing lineup. It does also have your vitamin D. So vitamin D, CoQ10, great for the cardiovascular system, just that alone. But you have a lot of other compounds in here that could together work to support the cardiovascular system in a number of different ways. So because it's a liquid, it becomes so much easier to take. There's a lot of people out there that need cardiovascular support. They need to take supplements that are going to help their cardiovascular system, but they can't swallow a pill. Maybe they've actually had problems, had a stroke, something like that. They can't really swallow a pill. Fabulous way. I love having liquid supplement options for those people who really need it. Also, if you're looking at for children, sometimes, so you say, would you give this to children? I would not hesitate to give this to children. I would not do it in the dosages that are, that are recommended here at a tablespoon at a time, or even starting out. So let me just explain. The instructions on here says to start out with 2 tablespoons. In other words, get a good saturation, get the body flooded with nutrients, right? This is part of our step 2 of the wellness strategy. Flood the body with nutrients on the outset and then back off. What we're doing in our wellness program, we're not doing that saturation part. We're just doing a tablespoon a day of this, and you can do that added to something else. Put it in your water, however you want to take that down. You could even do it the Mary Poppins way of just put it in a spoon and take it. It's really not that bad. I mean, I would swig it right here, but there's other people in the family using this, so it's not mine. Okay, so again, this is this MindWise liquid supplement, fabulous for supporting the cardiovascular system, and I would be hard pressed to find that there would be an upper limit on this. In other words, if my kid got into this battle and drank the whole thing, I seriously doubt there'd be any problem whatsoever, except for maybe a little diarrhea. So I mean, very, very safe product. I don't see any negative. I don't see any downside to this one. Okay. So sometimes there's supplements that you might say, well, careful with that or certain stuff. This is very good, solid support, but it's not going to be in that aggressive fashion. It's more of a long-term support. Likewise, there are people who always ask about what about blood thinners and things like that. I don't see anything strong in here that would have a red flag to say, okay, don't take this supplement when you're on a blood thinner. Of course, anytime you're taking an herb or a supplement and you're on medication, there's a risk for those two things interacting, and you're going to have to take charge of your own physiology of your own body for that. So if you take a supplement, doesn't matter what it is, if you take a supplement or another medication for that matter, and you start feeling off, and you feel woozy or you feel and then that might be a cause for concern, and you go, wait a minute, I just took that's kind of making me feel weird, maybe there's an interaction here. And you can look that up and ask your doctor and ask your pharmacist. Sometimes they don't know. I mean, who knows? We don't know. There's no way of knowing exactly what every interaction is going to be. So you just can't know all those things, but you do know your body. So if you start taking a supplement, you take a regular dose. We're not talking about massive doses here. We're taking a reasonable dose, and you test it out and you feel, okay, that's all right. Now, what about those things like blood thinning? You say, well, that's not going to happen right away. Absolutely, you're correct. So if you start taking a supplement and you start noticing that, if you're a guy, nick yourself shaving, girl, shave, and you start to see that you're bleeding out, I mean, a lot of just not stopping, well, then that would indicate that your blood's too thin, and you kind of say, okay, wait a minute, maybe there's something going on with my supplement program that's causing this interaction with the blood thinner. So it's one of those things that you're going to have to manage yourself, and you have to increase your body awareness, and that's why I do the breathing. pay attention to my body, breathe into my body, breathe into my cardiovascular system, breathe into my neck and spine. And I mean, we do all this breathing to get in touch with and get to know our own bodies. And so you know what's going on at all times more consciously. You do know what's going on. Your brain is registering all this stuff that's going on down here. We just need to get in tune with that. Okay? Happy wellness, one day at a time.